Hi, LaDonna. So I'm going to introduce LaDonna. LaDonna is our first speaker for today, and LaDonna is one of the leaders of the Standing Rock movement here in the United States. And again, I think has just been done doing so much incredible work and leadership with her community. LaDonna was a speaker in BioSummit 2.0 2 years ago, joining us. So that was LaDonna's first experience meeting us, our global family of science activists and life science nerds that are trying to do our best to change the world. And again, I think, LaDonna, you were such an inspiration to us in 2018, and the movement work that you've done at Standing Rock, I think, has been so inspiring for so many of us. And I think also your experience in helping to shape movements and also really helping us to think about a new way of doing science and a new way of building the world. We're in a moment right now where we really have to be rethinking everything. And so we're so excited to hear your thoughts about us as science activists and also just about this moment and what we all can do collectively to try to make a better world. So everybody, can you all please join me in applauding and welcoming LaDonna Bravebull? Thank you guys so much. And LaDonna, I'll turn it over to you now.
Yeah, well, I bet you washte. Yeah, tamaka washte we. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Her Good Earth Woman. I'm a Standing Rock and Roll tribal member. I am Lakota and Dakota. I come from the bands of Ihunktua, Pabiska, Sisitan, Hunkpapa, and Ogwala. So I am mixed. I am Lakota and Dakota. And I was born on the Cannonball River, where they proposed to put the pipeline in. So just to let you know, we are still in the fight. We are in the courts. Every week there's a new court hearing. Yes, the pipeline shuts down. Now they appeal. So now we got to wait for another court hearing. But we're in the court. This is not ended, and it will be not ended until every pipe is out of my homeland. I figure I'm here alive in this world, that I must make a difference. And if you really think about the world you live in, I always ask, what is your connection? Can you go out and put your feet on the ground? And can you feel that connection that rises out of the earth? That is your connection to your life. The earth has always been our mother. And she has always been there to care for us. And back when a lot of things were happening, I was praying and they said, you know the problem. It's the women. The women must sing. The women sing with the compassion in their voice that causes the earth to shake and causes the mother to learn to heal herself again, because everything in the earth has a self-healing component, including us. And if we don't ever use it, we can't heal. And so for the Mother Earth, it's healing time. Have you seen the amazing pictures of native animals coming back to their environments, where animals are out in the open playing with each other? So there's something else going on in this world, and we should be a part of that. We need to connect back with that earth. So I was thinking about this a long time. I've talked with David in the past and the people at the summit. You know, as Indigenous people from across the world, each Indigenous group faces their own environment. So they've had to use old technology, old science to make things happen. And so for me, in order for us to make this system change, to make this change for us, we all have to work together. We cannot do nothing without science and technology. We cannot do nothing without tradition and story and way of life. We gotta all do it together, because there's a little bit of answer in each spot. And for me, you know, when I went to MIT and I looked around, talked to some of the amazing students there, and I thought, Now, if we get all these groups to talk to each other, we could actually save the world. I truly believe that, because the amazing things that are happening with the young people in science is just so much hope. I just want to figure out, how do we get these connections? How do we get everybody talking together? Because we need each other. Nobody's greater. Nobody has better ideas. We're just all in this together. And I think we're at a change in life. You can see it. You can feel it. It's everywhere. On the bad side, we are 60% extinction rate of our animals and wildlife, which is heartbreaking. We are, I don't even know what the percentage is of water that's undrinkable in the world now. And for me, if the animals can't live, no can we. If the water is not clean, we do not live. So I was thinking, how do we make this for people to understand? It's about living. It's about giving hope and stuff. There's all of this stuff that's going on, all this stuff, the virus, the government's trying to make decisions, and everybody's making different kind of decisions, and really gets confusing, and nobody actually knows. Now's the time to do a system change. Now's the time for these young scientists, these technology people, these community action people, these activists, the indigenous people, to sit at one table and talk to each other. When I was at the MIT Summit, and I sat in that chair and I just listened to these young people talk, and I thought, oh my God, we have the answers. We're just not talking to each other. So in my crazy brain, I was trying to figure out, how do we get everybody to talk to each other? So I started talking to some of the students there, and they were talking about some of the things they face, which would be the corporations, come sign and come work for me, and then they get stuck in this contract, and it doesn't give them the freedom to create, to develop things that in their own mind they know is right. And so I was thinking, how do we not sign the contracts with corporations? Because just like everybody else, we gotta pay tuition, we gotta pay for living, we gotta eat, all of these other things. And so trying to figure out, how do we live without corporations? My father had told me when I was a child, when we become a corporation, we lost everything. And I believe that. And sorry for the corporations, but I'm probably not going to change my mind. So, and I do say bad things, so forgive me, but so we have a select group of people that are now vegan or vegetarian. That's really nice to eat healthier. But a lot of people have been attacking other people for not using butter, not using butter, goofy stuff. And I always think, wait, we didn't create corporate farms. We did not create domestic animals. The chicken, the pig, the cow did not come into the United States till 1800. I had to try to do research to each chicken, cow, and stuff, and how they came up, which boat they came up in. And so we did not create this, but we're willing to help you fix it. And there's no one way to anything. I hear people say, and you got to do it this way, or you got to believe it this way. It's not. It's this person talking with maybe 4 or 5 sentences that connects this sentence over here that's starting to make sense over here, so you can make sense over here. We got to do this together. I don't know how to say it in any simpler form. We don't have no more time. And now my time for my rant of saying bad things. For as long as I've been alive in this world, which is 65 years now, I have seen the world change, good and bad. And I think, growing pains. We're like little kids growing up. We want to fight everything, or we want everything now. And so now we need to emerge into adulthood of the world. That means that we need to reteach people how to connect with the earth, how to purify their water. And I'll say it again, at MIT, I've seen some amazing things. And how do we produce more food? We cannot exist on this planet without each other. And we cannot exist anymore with corporations. And I'm sorry, but I just can't see it. I believe that everybody has a right to their own creativity. And some of the things that are coming out of these young people is amazing. I feel great hope, even with everything that's going on around me. And I was like, my dear son, who gave up most of his year for me, got the virus. And he's coming out of quarantine today. But he was like, he started off like, Mom, we don't even know if this is true. And I said, freedom, it is. You just don't take these health things. So against his mother's wishes, he attended a wedding of 40 people, and all 40 people got the virus. And I was like, see, I'm telling you, it's got, so I'm not a good, I've been in isolation since January in my house, just because I have brain cancer and a brain tumor. Well, they took the tumor out, so I'm good. Going through this process, even that, I'm sitting here, the doctor says, you're an absolute miracle to be able to be sitting here talking and stuff, because I had a glioblastoma tumor that's inoperable, and nobody lives past 14 months. And they told my son I would die at surgery. I would die when I woke up. I would die. And I'm still here. And 2 days ago, I went in and they said, there's no trace of any cancer, and they diagnosed me at stage 5. There is no trace of any tumor. There is no trace of anything. And although I've lost my short-term memory, I am alive. How come I am alive? Scientists. We need that technology. And we need to be working. I can't stress that enough. And right now, no matter what you think, no matter what's going on in your lives, because life is not easy, time for change is now. And I thought, well, how do you do that? So I thought, maybe we can just get little groups to just sit down and start talking to each other. And then I was telling my son the other day, I said, Mom's like, why don't all these guys, all these different leaders, just sit at a table and say, this is what a better system is? That seems logical to me. But we need to do that. And we can do that. We just have to skirt around the politicians and skirt around the corporations, which seem to control a lot these days. Oh, wait. We gave them that control. I will not allow them to control any part of my life again. So I don't endorse any corporations right now. And I've been doing, how do you save the world? Well, you plant a tree. I planted 60 trees this year. I planted 70 trees last year. I've been trying to do a lot of fruit trees. and trees that's roots are really good for the soil. If you can't go out and save the whole world, you can plant one tree. What does that mean? You're providing air to breathe to the world. And if you plant a tree, you're planting for the future, because if you really think about it, you're not going to be alive when that tree gets to be an adult. That tree will be looked at by your grandchildren. That is planning for the future. The small things that we can do are amazing. We did Missouri River cleanup. We took 2 semi-loads of glass off the riverbeds. And this year, the riverbeds are filled with ducks and geese. And to me, that is success. But anyway, I did tell you guys I got a big mouth and I talk a lot and stuff, so I better not go too much longer. I have some really insane ideas about how we go forward in this world, and I hope we all do it together. Hechitulo, I am done now. And I'll be
LaDonna,
sitting right here if you have any questions.
yeah, thank you. Can we all give a round of applause and some snaps and some love and some emoji love for LaDonna? LaDonna, I'm so thrilled to hear that you have beat cancer and that you are healthy and well. And it was funny, I was talking with LaDonna on the phone yesterday and she said, I was ready to hop on a plane and travel. She's like, I wanted to go and travel. There's too much work to be done in this world, but the doctor said no traveling. So LaDonna has been grounded at home, but LaDonna, just thank you so much for joining us, really. You know, we appreciate you so much. I know for me personally, you really inspire me, and hopefully for the folks that have been listening, you've been inspiring them as well, to really think about a new vision for the world, because that's really what we need. And it was funny, you were talking about, what if we could get a whole bunch of people together and talk and kind of think about what this new world should be? Well, that is exactly what this event is all about. So thank you so much again, LaDonna. Can we do one more round of applause for LaDonna? And LaDonna will actually be joining us in the closing as well on Sunday evening. So LaDonna will both help open us and also close us. So thank you so much again, LaDonna. We appreciate you so much. It's such an honor to introduce Michaela Mckay from Sierra Leone. So Michaela is the Director of Science, Technology, and is part of the Directorate of Science, Technology, and Innovation. You may have noticed in the program that originally David Sengeh was going to be speaking, who's the Chief Innovation Officer. David is a dear friend and colleague from MIT, from the Media Lab. And David, unfortunately, got called by the president of Sierra Leone to do some important task right now. So David is unable to join us, but we're so honored to have Michaela here with us. Clayton, if you could spotlight Michaela. Okay, and Michaela, thank you so much for joining us, and we're so thrilled to hear from you a little bit about what's happening with science and technology in Sierra Leone and your perspective there, and also really how to democratize science and technology and bring it to the people. So Michaela, can we all again give some love and some snaps and some emojis for Michaela? Thank you so much, Michaela. I'll turn it over to you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm really humbled and honored to be here as part of this fruitful discussion today. And just so for colleagues on the session that probably don't know about the DSDI, really it is a directorate that was set up by His Excellency the President a little under 2 years ago. And that is because the President realized the role science and technology plays, in development of a nation. So the primary goal is to see how we can use technology and innovation to deliver on the national developmental objectives that have been stated in the national policy, and that is cutting across health, education, for instance, how we can improve the skills of early learners with the numerical skills or alphabetical recognition. So what we have done really is set up what we call an incubator, the Human Capital Development Incubator, where we actually test interventions and then have our baseline and then do inline evaluations and see what has this technology or intervention done, what would it mean for Sierra Leone, how would it benefit the populace, particularly the vulnerable groups when we talk about women and children in general. So we have done quite a lot in that line. even with the COVID-19 pandemic, for instance, the SDI actually leads the ICT pillar in the response. So one of the things we have done, because in as much as technology really has made a big impact and is making a big impact, it's very important as part of the ecosystem to be able to. So when you look at like a country as Sierra Leone, you might have 70% of its people have access to mobile phones, but of that number, very few would have access to. Hello?
Hey, Michaela, we got you. You're back.
Sorry.
No, no worries.
Some of the challenges we have here, connectivity.
No worries. Yeah, please
Yeah.
continue as you were.
Yeah, so I dropped off a minute. So as I was saying, so we actually have to take cognizance of our uniqueness. So bearing in mind that a huge percentage of the population has merely simple feature phones, so we use low-end technology like simple SMS and USSD to engage the public so they can have access to basic information that's required, whether it's related to COVID, for instance. How could you know what are some of the symptoms so that you could be able to get necessary help that's needed. But I would actually want to mention one thing relating to our access to basic amenities, one having to do with clean water. Now in Sierra Leone, for instance, particularly in the rural areas, citizens there do not have access to pipe-borne water, so they rely on water from rivers and streams and all that. So the question is, how can we use maybe even lower-end technology to ensure that this water is clean and actually could be used by people in this district, particularly children? How could we engage the communities in concern? There's a lot of emphasis on the engagement, keeping the dialogue open, because we cannot find solutions from a cooperative perspective, but rather from a citizenry perspective, and that is where they are critical parts of the ecosystem. So yes, so whilst DSTI wants to meet the national objective goals and developmental goals, it's also critical for us to take cognizance of what we're doing to the earth that we live in, how we can make science livable, so that the people all around, you don't have to be restricted to labs or particular spaces or dwelling, but within your respective communities, particularly the districts where they maybe don't have access to electricity, they don't have access, as I mentioned, to maybe basic healthcare. How do they keep nature alive so that they get to benefit fully and live healthier lives, whilst at the same time still embracing some kind of technology that is user-friendly and can meet their basic needs. So just with these few words, I will stop here, so at least I'll give opportunity to respond to any questions that we might have from the participants, and I'm very, very honored to be part of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michaela. So yeah, if anybody has questions, you can add them in the chat. We'll spend another about 8 minutes. We'll eat a little bit into the break, Mackenzie, just so you know. But Michaela, I just wanted to ask you to start. This particular group is really life science nerds. So we're doing a lot of synthetic biology. We're doing molecular biology, microbiology, et cetera. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what you're seeing in Sierra Leone connected to the life sciences.
Okay, as I said, Sierra Leone really is a different kind of jurisdiction compared to the developed countries as we know it to be. We do see a lot of enthusiasm from the youth. So one thing DSTI is doing is engaging the youth to be very innovative, to be very creative, basically just think it and do it. And we are also working extensively with other ministries, departments, and agencies, and also with the local communities, because sometimes it is difficult for you to be able to identify who really are these creators. So we do host pitches many a times where people are offered the opportunity to bring their ideas to the forefront, and these ideas are looked at by experts, at the table, and they're also supported, because sometimes you do require some kind of funding or assistance or even basic expert advice to be able to roll out to some of the interventions and life science creativities that they come up with. we've had instances where school-going children could be innovative about solutions in the community as to how to make their water clean in the community using simple things as stones and sand to do filtration, and as a result get clean drinking water. So the engagement really is continuous, and that is something DSTI takes very seriously. And especially our Chief Innovation Officer is the Minister of Education. So you can only imagine what he actually is encouraging at school levels, you know, for children to be able to speak up, and also for parents and members of the community to be able to embrace these the life science ideas and innovations as and when they come up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. David was saying earlier too that a part of why he couldn't join, he was saying that you had just launched a program for 2.6 million young people, I think, very recently, right? So I think, and just to say too, today, learning and education is one of the big themes of our conference today. So that's a huge part of what BioSummit is about as well. So, so really thank you for sharing that. And I also want to say too, your comments about the young people working with different types of solutions for water purity, that's another really big area that we're thinking a lot about as a global community as well. Clean water obviously is one of our big issues that's facing humanity. How do we deal with that in the future? We actually, one of our tracks here is called Guardianship of Ecosystems. We're going to be talking and thinking a lot about issues like that as well. So just a couple of other questions from the chat. So Mohammed is asking about COVID-19, which is another one of our tracks here, is responding to COVID-19. Can you talk a little bit about Sierra Leone's response, and just how you and your part of the world have been really trying to face and deal with this this really significant global challenge?
Okay. All right. As you know, with many other countries, nobody had an A to Z on how to respond to the COVID-19. So it was a process of learning forward. But when we were hit, and you know, we had a first case at the end of March, of course, they had to close the international airports, and we had to, you know, immediately, you know, escalate the emergency for our, you know, emergency call center to be able to receive and entertain calls and concerns from the public. So DSTI had to come in to see how can we use technology to be able to enhance the response and support the national, you know, emergency response. So we had some primary goals that we had to put together. Firstly, how could we streamline all our data sets to make sure we have it's pushed into one, which is the DHIS2, to improve on connectivity, because it was important for us to know what was happening, when it was happening, how, to the people, you know, nationwide. So that we had to do to connect all the district health offices. And then we now had to start to see what kind of systems and applications can we come up with that are quick wins to be able to support this response. So of course, given the nature of COVID-19, social distancing is one of the, you know, health protocols. So, and all the districts, for instance, were locked down, so you couldn't move from one district to the other. So what we did in our first 3 days of lockdown in Sierra Leone, we had to use drones to assist with the surveillance for unmanned areas. But one thing that brought to light was that Sierra Leone was not amongst the countries that we could have longer periods of lockdown. For simple reason, people needed access to basic amenities like water. So we could see that, for instance, through the drone data, that people that move from one area to the other move because they were probably carrying jerry cans to go and get simple things as water, because they don't have storage facilities to keep for a longer period of time. So, but even with the inter-district lockdowns, it was necessary for essential services to still move from one district to another. So what the pillar did was to come up with an application where essential services people could do online applications that even apply using simple USSD or SMS for permits to be able to move goods and services from one district to the other. And even when the airport was declared open, we had to put in place an application where we could track inbound and outbound passengers, and also be able to feed that information to the labs pillar and to surveillance pillar. So in the event a passenger is positive, they would be contacted by the surveillance pillar, and the necessary protocols could follow. So really, it was a matter of trying to see how we can blend, ensure people have regular lives as much as possible, but at the same time take cognizance of the fact that this is a pandemic. It is going to change the way we do things, and make sure they have access to user-friendly applications, bearing in mind the percentage of literacy as well in the country. So we also even have things as IVR recording services where people can call and actually hear or get information that is vital to their day-to-day existence during this pandemic.
Wonderful, Michaela. Thank you. And I think we'll close with one final question from Dairo from Nigeria. So Dairo asks, what's the government's role in assisting communities at the local level? So I think, you're in the larger national government. So can you just talk a little bit about that in conclusion?
Okay, in terms of government's role, primarily is to make sure that the policies and legal framework can support development. But one thing they do is engagement, and again, engagement is continuous. So they work assiduously with the civil society organizations, for instance, who have feet on the ground in different communities. They also work with national, non-governmental organizations, the NGOs, as we normally know them to be, who can bring on board expertise in specific areas, whether or not you're talking about health or agriculture, or you're talking about rights, legal rights of vulnerable people, or of people generally, human rights. So the government actually does work with people at local level and engages the citizenry as well. There's a lot of use of radio programs, calling programs, and text programs. So you get to understand whatever policies or framework you put in place, how it is going to impact on the people that are going to be on the receiving side.
Wonderful. Michaela, we appreciate you so much from taking time out of your busy day. I know that you were drafted very late and you had a television show that you were speaking in and so on earlier. So I appreciate you so much for taking the time. And everybody, can we all give Michaela some snaps and some claps and some love for being here with us? And we really appreciate you for bringing the perspective from Sierra Leone. I think, this movement is very much a global movement that we're a part of. And so I think your perspective, connecting with our community, I think is so critically important. So thank you so much again. Please give David a big hug for me the next time you see him, or I guess a socially distanced hug. Don't hug him, but give him some love from David Kong. So thank you so much again, Michaela. And please feel free to hang out and join us for as long as you like. So thank you so much again.